What is the most powerful item in Jujutsu Kaisen? Well, we're going to talk about that and some other questions from you guys, but spoilers beware if you're not caught up on the manga. And to kick things off here, I'm going to give my list of the top 5 strongest items in JJK. But first, a quick honorable mention to Sukuna's pair of curse tools, Haiten and Kamutoke. I'm putting these not on the list, but as an honorable mention just because we don't really get to see too much from them. Yes, we get a little bit of Kamutoke, and it does seem extremely powerful, as I'm sure Haiten is as well, but just since we don't have too much information to pull from, honorable mentions. All right, so coming in at number 5 of my top 5 most powerful items, I've got to give it to Playful Cloud. Looks can be deceiving because while this seems just like an ordinary staff, it is actually based on the potential of its wielder, meaning the stronger you are, the stronger it is. And we've seen what kind of destruction it can be in the hands of somebody like Toji. So a strong contender, but number 5. Coming in at number 4, I've got Miguel's Black Rope, and this thing is special as it is one of only a few things in the entire verse that can nullify or disrupt curse techniques. However, it takes generations to craft and it does deteriorate on use. And at the end of the day, it is a whip, so it's not the most lethal of weapons, but by its property alone, it deserves to be on this list. Next, coming in at number 3, I've got the Soul Split Katana. This thing ignores durability. That is absolutely insane. Now, yes, it does have some caveats. It must be wielded by somebody that can perceive the soul, but assuming you've got that, you can dish out some damage with this bad boy. And then coming in at number 2, we've got the Inverted Spear of Heaven. This is basically Miguel's Black Rope, but on steroids. It is an absolute nullification of any curse technique it comes into contact with, but it doesn't deteriorate in the same way the Black Rope does. Sure, it's not indestructible or anything, but you could use this forever if you take good care of it, and it's a pointed, slashing weapon, so you can just deal more damage with it compared to the whip anyway. So, number 2. And then coming in hot at that number 1 spot, we've got Gojo's Black Dry Fit, aka the RC t-shirt. This thing is damn near indestructible. Its durability feats are the best in the entire verse. It withstood not 1, not 2, but several domain expansions from the most powerful sorcerer of all time. Not only that, its user was bisected and the shirt came out unscathed. Where is the Gojo clan getting this stuff? We don't know. All we do know is they undoubtedly paid top dollar for it. I got to give a big old shout out to Rito, whose second question right here inspired the preceding parts of this video, but also a massive shout out for being a YouTube member. Thank you so much for the support, man. And to all my YouTube members out there, our first emote is almost done. I commissioned 2 different people to make the first one to see which style you guys liked best. So be sure to head on over to YouTube. I put out a member poll for you guys to vote on which one you liked more. And as soon as we decide, I will then get the rest of them commissioned. So be looking forward to that. But now let's handle your first question, which was, will Sukuna understand what Gojo was meant to show him during their fight by the end? Do I expect a change of heart from him before his demise? So I think you're referring to the kind of theme that kept playing over and over, which was the one to teach you about love is, and that came up I think like 3 or 4 times in the Gojo fight. I actually put out a whole video talking about that and who I think will be the one to teach Gojo love, Sukuna love, and I think it's going to be Yuji. So I'm going to link that video in the comments of this one. But so yes, I do think Sukuna will understand that by the end. I just think Yuji will be the one to teach him. And I don't expect a change of heart insofar as the power of friendship. Sukuna sees the evil of his ways and turns over a new leaf. I more so see it as Sukuna realizing he chose the wrong path. Similar to how when he was fighting Maki, he got so excited because it was a chance to test devoting your life to jujutsu versus the heavenly restriction, which is the opposite, right? So he was excited to kind of test those two ideals against each other. I think Yuji ultimately defeating Sukuna will have a similar effect because Yuji is the polar opposite of Sukuna, right? Sukuna abandoned all his humanity in the pursuit of strength. Yuji embraces it. And I go into this a little bit more in depth in the video I referenced, but yeah, check out that video. I'll link it down below. Next up, we got some questions about Inumaki from Alexander, so let's go through these one by one. And first up here, he asks, what do you think the full potential and limits of cursed speech are? So I will say the limits are kind of your own body. As we've seen, when Inumaki does too powerful of commands or does too many, his throat gets raw and like he feels it physically, right? So the limits are yourself. The stronger you are, the more like durable you could make your throat, pause, and just your body in general, the more you're going to increase your limits. But I do think there is like an upper maximum that realistically nobody could really get by except maybe Sukuna, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. But in terms of its full potential, we've seen Inumaki even say die, or, Yuta for that matter. And just because you say the word die doesn't mean it's going to destroy whoever you say it to, right? It's kind of based on power levels. So Yuta, for example, when he was fighting Geto, could make all of those small cursed spirits just explode when he said that, but that's not going to work on Geto himself. So if, Yuta was insanely powerful, then yeah, he could use that to just wipe out people weaker than him, similar to the Fireflies. But you would basically have to be so much stronger to do something like that at that point you wouldn't even need to use curse speech. You could just beat them regularly, if that makes sense. So it's definitely powerful, but it's got its drawbacks, and because of that, I don't think it would be the strongest vessel for Sukuna to take over, which is what these two questions deal with. Sukuna taking over anyone as a vessel pretty much makes them the strongest person in the verse because it's Sukuna, and less because of whatever curse technique he has. So in Inumaki's case, could Sukuna do some cool stuff since he has a second mouth that, would allow him to do even more curse speech? Yes, but like we were just saying, like Sukuna already has much more efficient and better ways to dispatch somebody, that like having curse speech would be a cool little just like thing on his utility belt, but really doesn't move the meter in my opinion. So Sukuna, which is an amazing name by the way, we're gonna notch it up a few ranks just for that, is pretty low on the list of like potential vessels. I think Megami is probably up there at the top due to Tin Shadows and Maharaga and evolving his technique. Yuji, just for how durable his body is, and then Gojo or just other crazy people like that are obviously going to be really strong. But honestly, in Sukuna's case, it's really more about what he brings to the table than what he's going to gain from somebody else. And finally, can it heal? Is that RCT? No, we haven't seen Curse Speech to be able to do anything like that. And speak of the devil, I actually got another question about Inumaki from NH Miraz, who says that he seems like the waste of a character. The last we heard of him was when Sukuna attacked him with his domain and he lost an arm. Do I think he will make an appearance, maybe by using Curse Speech to save Gojo or Yuta, and how would I fit him in the final fight? I get what you're saying about the waste of a character, like we really haven't seen much from him, but I don't view him that way. Not every character, especially side characters, is going to get like a tremendous moment to shine. So even if we see nothing else from Inumaki, I kind of like the place he's had, especially being one of Akotsu's best friends that, a little bit explored in JJK 0, and then especially in these later chapters, specifically regarding the arm. There's the theory that Rika maybe ate that arm, or at least part of Inumaki, in order to copy Curse Speech. And there's a whole lot to unpack here because, yes, Akotsu copied Curse Speech before that, like we saw in JJK 0, but that was back when he had original Rika, where maybe the eating requirement wasn't a thing. So, maybe I'll make another video kind of outlining all the facts there. But in any case, I think Inumaki has served a role even if we see nothing else from him, but it would be cool to see something else from him. We've seen Yuta use Curse Speech against Sukuna in his domain, so I don't really expect like a big crazy twist where Inumaki comes in off the top rope and, tells Sukuna to just go home and cry or something, but I could see him having some sort of role. But similar to Angel, both of our de-armed people are really nowhere to be seen. Inumaki wasn't in the planning stages for the final fight, but neither was Todo, right? So it could be a situation where they were keeping Yuji in the dark as to not alert Sukuna to the plan. So I could see it going either way, but it would be cool as kind of a final plan to like have Inumaki as like a contingency, right? Like maybe if something goes wrong, he's supposed to come in and shout like stop to buy them time or something. Now, could Akotsu do that same thing? Maybe, but given what's going on with Akotsu right now, that may not be possible. So we'll have to see how this plays out. Anyways, y'all, that's it for this episode of Please Distract Me from Lobotomy Kaisen. Thank you to everybody who donated and sent in some support, and thank you guys so much for watching.